Ever wonder who really picks your representatives in Washington?
Yeah, it might not be who you think.
Just days ago, headlines screamed about a brewing political battle over congressional district maps. This isn't just some political squabble. It feels like an intensifying redistricting arms race. States are openly maneuvering to, well, entrench political power.
And what's really fascinating here, I think, is that this aggressive mid-decade redrawing, it's happening in a legal landscape that's been completely reshaped.
Reshaped how?
By the Supreme Court, actually. The highest court has largely stepped back from these really partisan fights.
Okay, so what does this all mean for you, the voter? Today, we're going to unpack how your voting power is shaped by lines on a map.
And that pivotal Supreme Court decision that changed everything.
Right. And what's currently unfolding across the country will highlight how politicians are, leveraging every available tool to gain an advantage. Let's dig in.
Okay, so to really get what's happening now, we probably need to step back and talk about gerrymandering itself.
Right, the basics.
Simply put, it's redrawing voting district boundaries. But the goal is to tilt political power towards one party.
So imagine drawing these invisible lines across a state. Not to make things fair, but to give one side a big leg up.
Exactly. And it's not just one method. There are two main ways they do it. Cracking and packing.
Okay, cracking. That sounds like breaking something.
Sort of. You take a party's supporters and divide them up across multiple districts. Spread them thin.
Ah, so you dilute their voting strength. Make it harder for them to actually win anywhere.
Precisely. Like spreading a strong flavor too thinly. You never get enough in one place to really matter.
Okay, that makes sense. So what's packing?
Packing is the opposite strategy. You concentrate the other party's supporters into just a few districts.
So they win those districts, but by huge margins.
Exactly. Huge margins. Which means many of their votes are effectively wasted. They could have maybe helped win other closer districts.
Like a baseball team winning a couple of games 20-0, but then losing all the close ones because they stacked their best players.
That's a great analogy, yeah.
It's kind of surprising, though, that this isn't some new, modern trick.
Oh, not at all. Gerrymandering was known in the colonies, even before independence.
Really?
Yeah. And the term itself, gerrymander, it came about way back in 1812. There was this district in Massachusetts, shaped really strangely.
Oh, like a salamander?
Apparently so. Governor Gerry's salamander district gerrymander. By 1840, it was already called a recognized force in party politics. Both parties were doing it.
Wow. But while the ambition might be old, the tools must be different now.
Totally different. Today's gerrymandering is, altogether different from the crude line drawing of the past.
So?
It uses big data, sophisticated tech tools, things like precinct-level election results, voter behavior prediction models.
So they can be much more precise.
Far more precise. It makes modern gerrymandering far more effective and durable. It can really insulate politicians from what the voters actually prefer to a degree we haven't seen before.
So, if this is such a widespread thing and it clearly impacts elections,
Yeah.
you might be asking, why haven't the federal courts stepped in?
And that brings us right to a landmark Supreme Court decision. June 27, 2019, Rucho v. Common Cause.
Rucho, okay.
This case really changed the whole game for partisan gerrymandering.
What was the case about?
Well, it actually combined challenges from two different states, North Carolina and Maryland. Different parties in charge, but similar tactics.
Okay, North Carolina first. What happened there?
In North Carolina, the Republican-controlled legislature basically told the mapmakers, draw a map that gives us 10 Republican seats and 3 Democratic seats.
They said that out loud.
Pretty much. One co-chair actually said, I drew this map to help foster what I think is better for the country.
And did it work?
Oh, yeah. In 2016, Republicans got 10 out of 13 seats with just 53% of the statewide vote. In 2018, it was 9 out of 12 seats with only 50% of the vote.
That's quite a thumb on the scale. Yeah. And Maryland, the other side of the coin.
Exactly. In Maryland, it was Democrat-controlled legislators, led by Governor O'Malley at the time.
What was their goal?
Their stated goal was to flip a specific district to get a 7-to-1 Democratic delegation from Maryland.
And they do it.
By moving huge numbers of voters, roughly 360,000 voters out of the targeted district and 350,000 new voters in, all to create a safe Democratic district.
And the result?
Since 2012, Democrats have consistently won 7 out of 8 House seats in Maryland, even though they never got more than 65% of the statewide vote.
So, okay. Both parties using these map drawing powers for clear partisan advantage. The courts were asked to rule on this. But the outcome was, well, surprising to many.
It really was. In that Rucho decision, the Supreme Court essentially said that partisan gerrymandering claims present political questions beyond the reach of the federal courts.
Beyond their reach, what does that mean practically?
It means federal judges, including the Supreme Court justices themselves, cannot hear these kinds of cases. They basically closed the door for federal courts on purely partisan gerrymandering challenges.
But why? It seems so clearly connected to fair elections.
The court's main reason was a lack of standards. They said there was no judicially discoverable and manageable standard in the Constitution to figure out what's fair.
Or how much partisanship is too much.
Exactly. They couldn't find a clear, manageable, and politically neutral test. They felt deciding that would be like making political judgments, not legal ones, which isn't their job.
What about the framers? Did they weigh in?
The court looked at that. They pointed to the Elections Clause in the Constitution, Article 1, Section 4. It gives power over elections to state legislatures, right?
All right, with Congress having the power to step in.
Correct. The court said there was no suggestion that the federal courts had a role to play in that original design for this specific issue.
But wait, federal courts do get involved in districting sometimes. What about one person, one vote?
Good point. The court drew a distinction there. One person, one vote is about equal population in districts. It ensures each person's vote has equal weight. That's measurable, it's mathematical. But the court said that principle does not extend to political parties. It doesn't mean each party gets seats exactly proportional to its support.
Or what about racial gerrymandering? Courts step in there too.
Another key distinction, racial gerrymandering aims to eliminate discrimination based on race, which the Constitution views as inherently suspect.
So race is different.
Very different, legally speaking. Partisan gerrymandering, the court argued, you can't just eliminate partisanship itself. It's kind of inseparable from districting, in their view.
So they also rejected proposed tests, like looking at the map drawer's intent.
They did. They said even if the main intent was partisan advantage, that's not automatically unconstitutional like racial discrimination is. And trying to predict future election outcomes based on maps, that was unstable ground outside judicial expertise.
Okay, so if federal courts are basically saying, not our problem for partisan gerrymandering, what's the so what? Where can people actually push for change?
Well, the court was clear it wasn't condoning extreme gerrymandering. It just said federal courts aren't the venue.
So where is the venue?
Two main places. First, the states themselves. The court noted many states are actively addressing the issue through state constitutional amendments, through new laws that create independent commissions to draw the lines, or laws that explicitly ban drawing lines for partisan gain, like Florida's Fair Districts Amendment.
Okay, state-level action. What's the other avenue?
Congress. Remember, the Elections Clause gives Congress power, too.
Right, they can make or alter state regulations.
Exactly, and the court pointed that out. Bills have been introduced in Congress to require things like independent commissions nationwide or to ban partisan gerrymandering outright. Think H.R. 1 back in the 116th Congress.
So the court essentially passed the buck back to the political branches, state legislatures, and Congress.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
So the highest court says, we're out. What happened next? Did politicians just, stop gerrymandering?
Not exactly. Quite the opposite, actually.
Yeah.
It seems Rucho didn't end the fight at all. It just shifted the battlefield and maybe even intensified it. It arguably fueled this redistricting arms race we're seeing now.
An arms race.
Yeah. With federal courts largely sidelined on the partisan aspect, political parties and key figures seem more willing to take aggressive, overt, and often retaliatory actions. They're exploiting the current legal landscape.
And Texas is a prime example right now, isn't it?
Absolutely. You have President Trump publicly pushing Texas lawmakers to redraw their congressional maps.
That's the goal.
To pick up 5 more Republican House seats before the 2026 midterms. Texas House Republicans even put out a draft map back in July.
And that led to that dramatic walkout by the Democrats, right? Fleeing the state.
That's the one. They fled to deny a quorum, basically to block the vote on the map.
What's been the fallout from that?
Well, Governor Greg Abbott and Attorney General Ken Paxton reacted strongly, pushing to remove the absent lawmakers from office. It's definitely stirred things up.
How does the public feel about it?
There was a YouGov poll in August 2025. It showed only 30% of Americans approved of the Texas plan for 5 new GOP districts, 48% disapproved.
And the walkout.
More split. 37% approved of the Democrats leaving, 41% disapproved. So divided opinions there.
And isn't the Department of Justice involved too?
Yes, the DOJ sent a letter. They warned that 4 specific districts in Texas might be unconstitutional coalition districts.
Coalition districts?
Yeah, districts that combine Black and Hispanic voters. The DOJ suggested this might dilute minority voting power, potentially violating the Voting Rights Act, and threatened legal action.
How did Texas respond?
Texas officials pushed back. They draw race-blind maps and are challenging the DOJ's legal interpretation about these coalition districts.
Okay, so Texas is pushing hard for Republican gains, but California is talking about a counterpunch.
That's right. Governor Gavin Newsom in California, he's planning a special election for November 4th.
To do what?
To get voters to approve a redrawn map there.
Yeah.
One that could potentially give Democrats 5 additional House seats. Kind of a direct response to the Texas situation.
But that's facing challenges too, right?
Oh, yeah. Big challenges. Carl DeMaio, a prominent California Republican, is already taking legal action.
On what grounds?
He's arguing Newsom's plan violates the California Constitution itself. For a few reasons.
Like what?
1, he says California's constitution prohibits mid-cycle redistricting unless a court orders it.
Right.
2, he argues that all map drawing power belongs only to the state's Citizens Redistricting Commission, not the legislature or the governor.
And the third?
That the state constitution explicitly bans drawing districts to favor or discriminate against a political party. He's pointing to Newsom publicly, saying he's targeting GOP seats as evidence of that intent.
So a state constitutional fight brewing there. What's California's current map like? I thought they had a commission already.
They do. And their current map, drawn by that Citizen Commission, actually gets a B grade from the gerrymandering project. It's seen as favoring incumbents generally, not one specific party heavily.
And big names are opposing Newsom's plan.
Yes. Former Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger are both actively fighting it. Schwarzenegger even said he's out to terminate gerrymandering.
Huh. Okay. So Texas, California. Are other states jumping into this escalating fight?
It looks that way. In Missouri, the Republican majority is gearing up for a special session. They're apparently targeting a Democratic-held district, and they're pointing fingers at Illinois' maps as justification.
Illinois?
Yeah, Illinois is often cited as one of the most skewed states for partisan maps, but favoring Democrats. It gets an F grade for its strong pro-Democratic skew.
And New York.
Governor Kathy Hochul in New York has also pledged to help Democrats gain seats there. She's even suggested getting rid of the state's independent redistricting commission.
But didn't New York just get a good map?
They did. Their current map got an A grade from the gerrymandering project, but that only happened after the courts threw out maps drawn by the legislature and appointed a special master to draw fair ones.
It feels like this mid-decade redrawing is suddenly everywhere. Is this normal?
Well, mid-decade changes aren't unheard of. They've happened in, I think, 24 out of 31 election cycles since 1964.
Oh, okay.
But those changes almost always include some sort of court action, a court order, a settlement, something like that.
Not just purely political moves.
Right. Texas back in 2003 was a rare exception of a purely political mid-decade redraw. Plus, several states actually have laws prohibiting mid-decade congressional redistricting, places like New York, North Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama. That adds another legal hurdle to what's happening now.
Okay, so if politicians are armed with these advanced tools and federal courts are out, what are the real potential solutions? We mentioned independent commissions. How do they actually work?
Right. Independent redistricting commissions are basically bodies created by the state. The key is they take the power to draw election lines away from the state legislatures.
And give it to who?
To multi-partisan citizen volunteers, people from different backgrounds, different parties, or no party. The goal is more transparency, more competitiveness, and crucially, more partisan fairness.
Is there a place where this has worked well? A model, maybe?
Arizona's Independent Redistricting Commission, the AIRC, is often held up as an example. Its structure was even okayed by the U.S. Supreme Court back in 2015.
What do they do well?
Public participation was huge. The AIRC went to great lengths, held something like 23 public hearings, got over 7,400 comments or suggestions, looked at 224 maps submitted by the public.
Wow, that builds trust.
It really seemed to. People in Arizona generally felt their process was fairer than in many other states.
Did it actually make the districts better, more competitive, fairer?
The data suggests yes. Competitiveness went up significantly. After their 2010 redistricting, about 33% of Arizona's congressional districts were rated highly competitive. Nationwide, it was only 15%.
That's a big difference.
Huge. And 80%, a full 80% of their state legislative districts became more competitive.
And partisan fairness. Did the results reflect the votes more closely?
Yeah, they ranked really high on that. Fourth in the country in 2014, first in 2016, for translating votes into seats proportionally. In 2016, for instance, Democrats got about 45% of the votes statewide and won 44.4% of the House seats. That's pretty close.
Okay, that sounds really promising. A real potential pathway.
Yeah.
But are there downsides, challenges to these commissions?
Definitely. It's not a perfect fix. For one, there are still legal debates about their constitutionality.
Even after the Supreme Court ruling?
Yeah, it hinges on how you interpret the word legislature in the U.S. Constitution's Elections Clause. Does it mean only the elected legislative body, or can it include processes like ballot initiatives that create these commissions? Some court watchers think a future court might reverse that Arizona decision.
Okay. What else?
Political resistance is a big one. Even if voters approve a commission, politicians might try to undermine it. Like in Missouri, where legislators tried to undo a voter-approved change related to their commission process.
And funding. Who pays for them?
That can be tricky, too. They often rely on money appropriated by the state legislature, and, well, antagonistic lawmakers can try to withhold that funding.
Right. And commissions can't solve everything, can they? Like, people live where they live. Democrats tend to cluster in cities, Republicans in rural areas.
Exactly. Commissions can't magically fix the effects of that natural geographic clustering of voters. And they don't guarantee perfect proportional representation either that might not even be possible or desirable in our system.
But there's still another avenue, even without federal courts. You mentioned state courts earlier.
Yes, that's crucial. Don't forget state courts. State Supreme Courts in places like Florida in 2015 and Pennsylvania in 2018, they actually struck down partisan gerrymanders based on their state constitutions.
So state constitutions might have stronger protections or different wording.
Precisely. So even if the federal door is closed on partisan claims, state courts, interpreting state law, remain a viable path for challenging unfair maps.
Okay, so wrapping this up. We've seen that extreme partisan gerrymandering is widely seen as, well, incompatible with democratic principles. But the federal courts have said it's a political issue, not a legal one for them to solve.
Right. And that decision seems to have poured fuel on the fire, leading to this intense arms race at the state level. Politicians are using sophisticated tools to draw maps that lock in their power.
The battles playing out right now in Texas and California really throw this into sharp relief. It highlights a fundamental truth, doesn't it?
It does. If federal courts won't step in on partisanship, the responsibility for fair representation falls squarely back on state legislatures, maybe on citizen commissions if states create them.
And ultimately, on you, the voters, to demand change and hold officials accountable.
Exactly. That old saying, the voters should choose their representatives, not the other way around. The struggle to make that a reality is clearly far from over.
It really reminds us that we need constant vigilance to protect the integrity of our democratic process. So, thinking about all this, what do you think is the most effective way forward to protect your vote in this ongoing battle for the map?